Everyone look at my outfit. Okay, anyways. Probably take off my coat. Okay, welcome to the video. As you can probably see by the title, today I'm just going to be talking about the books that I read in October. I have my pumpkin spice latte again. Also, it's Halloween in 2 days, and tonight I'm going for Halloween as Elsa because my name is Elsa, so I have my hair straightened. Although I straightened it last night, so it's already getting curly again. But just because I'm going to, do her like braided hair, these little curtain bangs that I have are perfect when they're straightened. But I have the claw clip in, and I normally like claw clips, but like when my hair is straightened or slightly wavy like it is it's literally perfect. Like I look so like posh and elegant, in my opinion at least. Plus with the turtleneck and the fancy jacket, like it's just perfect. So I only read 5 books this month, so this isn't going to be a very long video. But because I really like to read, I decided that, posting monthly reading wrap-ups, maybe TBR, to be read lists for like the coming month or months, I thought that would just be a nice thing to have on here in case you guys are interested in what I'm reading. Although I do link my Goodreads in all of my video descriptions, so you can definitely look there also. So I'm gonna go through the books in the order that I read them this month, and it was kind of all over the place. I mean, I would say definitely each of these 5 books is a very different genre, but then 2 of them especially kind of ended up being related inadvertently, which is kind of silly. But I only have 2 of the books in print with me. The other 3 I read from the library. But the first book I read, I'll try to put it up on the screen, is was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this book was written in like poetry, free verse. It was okay for me. It's not, I'm not normally reading poetry anymore, although I do still really enjoy it. And I've read other books, maybe only 1 book. I know she wrote The Poet X, and I read that one, and I have a copy at home, and I do think I liked that one a lot, so I wanted to read this one, and it's been on like a lot of lists that I've seen for really good books. And the plot was definitely like it surprised me a little bit towards the end, but obviously for me it was hard to kind of relate to the characters because their situations are very different from mine. So, and it definitely went through a lot of really heavy topics. So yeah, check that before you read it. But overall, I rated it, on Goodreads I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think realistically it would be 3.5 out of 5. I'm normally pretty lenient with my book ratings. I don't often give a book less than like 3 stars. So yeah, so that was the first book I read. And then second, this book I definitely did not start in October, but I finished it in October. But it was Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro, which was it was like the NYU Reads book. So everyone was kind of supposed to read it, I guess, that was going to NYU. My mom got me a copy over the summer, but I didn't finish it until like the beginning of October. Because the beginning, if I'm being honest, was very, very slow. Like the first 50 or 75 pages really did not help me get into the book. But the end got better, and it was to the point where I was like interested to see what was going on. And I don't know, the relationships between the characters were very odd, and then like the way, because the narrator of this book, this isn't spoiling anything, the narrator of this book, like right from the beginning, is this thing called an AF, which is essentially like a robot with a lot of artificial intelligence, because it's like a future dystopian type novel. So the narrator as a like a robot with artificial intelligence, like has not really empathy, but like understands people's emotions kind of. It was, I don't know, just kind of like a strange combination of narration. So like the end, it was just kind of sudden, where like I almost think it was kind of like, you know, if the robot's off, obviously we're not getting any narration because the robot is the narrator. So yeah, it was interesting by the end. I did appreciate it. I think I'm glad I read it. So anyways, Klara and the Sun, I gave 4.5 stars. The next book I read, not even necessarily a book, I guess. The next piece of literature I read was Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare. I only picked this up because I was in the library, and my library branch here that I go to, there's a like loft, second floor, mezzanine type thing that has the young adult books on it, and right next to all the shelves of young adult books, there's a like required reading for school little shelf. And I walk past it all the time, and it had like a lot of books that I read on it, and I saw all of these Shakespeare plays, and I was like, at home I have a copy of Hamlet and a copy of Julius Caesar that I got them at a used bookstore, and I never read them before I left. You know, back when I got them, which was probably like a year ago maybe, I was like, when I was a freshman, we read Romeo and Juliet, the whole thing, and we all had to do a skit. We had to pick a scene from Romeo and Juliet with like a group of our classmates and act it out and memorize the lines. And I was Mercutio in like the big duel battle scene. I'm guessing it's in like Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet. I don't know, someone will know what I'm talking about here. But I memorized like more than 50 lines of Shakespeare, and I got to be Mercutio, who, if you don't know, Romeo and Juliet is literally insane, but it was so fun. So I got the copies of Shakespeare because I was like, oh, I like, you know, reading his stuff, like maybe, you know, reading it aloud, acting it out, whatever. I'm not a literature student or a theater student, but, you know, I thought it would be fun to read. So then I, you know, walked past all the Shakespeare at the library, and I was like, oh, I'll pick one of these out, you know? And I didn't get Hamlet or Julius Caesar because I have those at home, and I'll probably like annotate them and, you know, write stuff in when I read them so I actually understand them. So I got Much Ado About Nothing because I've heard of it before. And essentially it was just like, all of these people were just like pulling pranks on each other basically, but in a very like, I guess, old-fashioned way. And I thought it was pretty silly, to be honest. There were points in the book when I actually read it and I would like laugh a little bit because it was silly. So yeah, Much Ado About Nothing. I rated Much Ado About Nothing 4 stars out of 5, which is pretty good. And yeah, I kind of liked reading it. It was fun. Next book I read, which I read pretty quickly, was We Hunt the Flame by, oh gosh, it was by Hafsah Faizal. I don't know how to pronounce the name still. I mentioned this in one of my earlier ones when I talked about the books I was reading. I'll try to link it if I can figure out how to do that. I don't know. So yeah, We Hunt the Flame is very like high fantasy, enemies to lovers, but very fantasy, which I haven't read in a while. So I picked it up at the library because I figured it would be, you know, interesting, maybe like get me back into reading more, maybe reading fantasy. And it was pretty good. I'm not, I don't know, I can't say that I'm extremely attached to any of the characters, so I feel like I wasn't that into it, you know? It was like a good read, but yeah, on Goodreads I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Realistically, I'd say 3.5 out of 5. But yeah, that was the 4th book I read this month. The 5th book I have with me, I kind of wish I would have annotated it, honestly, while I was reading it, because I feel like the first time thoughts as you read this book are definitely crazier than like the second or third time or whatever when you read it. But last book I read was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and I am so glad that I got this book. I'm so glad that I read it. I think I probably will end up rereading it because I really, really liked it. This is what it kind of ties back into Much Ado About Nothing, but it's basically about these theater students that go to this university, conservatory, whatever, like super hardcore theater conservatory that like drops kids every year, and they're in their senior year and things are like super intense, and basically they all are kind of just like cracking under the stress, but it's like so dark. Academia. It's so dark academia. It's like Shakespeare all over the place. Like that's the only thing that they study at their conservatory in this book. So there's Shakespeare quotes all the time. So if you can't like slightly understand what Shakespeare is saying in a given quote, probably this book won't hit as hard. But it was really good. I did not cry, although there were definitely some sad parts and some heavy parts. Also definitely check like trigger warnings in this book if you're going to read this one. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed reading it. I'm so glad that I picked it up. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I don't think there was any part of this book that I like didn't like, even like straight from the beginning. I like got into it right away. When I got to like, I think when I had like 200 pages left of this book, it was like, I don't remember like what day of the week it was, but I had class the next day at 8 or 9, and it was like 8 o'clock and I had 200 pages left, and I was thinking like, oh, can I finish this at a reasonable hour? And I decided that I couldn't, but I had to put it down. I had to put it down when I had like 50 pages left. So I went and finished the 50 pages like after my 2 morning lectures that day in the library. Like maybe I would have cried at the end or close to the end if I had been like in my dorm room alone, but I was in the library, which was full of people. So that might have changed the effect that the book had on me. Really, really good. I would highly recommend this book, especially for fall. I really, really liked it. But that's all the books that I read. I guess I could tell you what I'm reading now, but I don't have any of them with me, I don't think. Because I'm not in my dorm room, as you can see. I'm once again in a practice room because my roommates are still sleeping. First book I'm reading right now is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I'm only about 50 pages in, so it's a little slow, as classics usually are. Next book I'm reading, technically, is Harry Potter y la cámara secreta, which is the Chamber of Secrets in Spanish, but I'm only like 3 pages in. It's like writing down every word that I like slightly didn't know and like writing the translation, like looking up the translation, writing it down. So basically it took me like an hour to get through like 3 pages. So I also am reading Fantasmas, which is Ghosts by Raina Telgemeier, graphic novel in Spanish. And that one is a lot easier to understand for me because there's not as many words and there's pictures. And I'm like, I don't know, kind of a ways in because it's a graphic novel. So that's good for my Spanish skills. recently I picked up again my so-called favorite book, which is a tricky decision, but The Sky's Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. If you know me in real life, I've probably told you to read the book if we've ever talked about books. And it's like a romance, kind of love triangle type thing, which isn't what I normally read, but just the way that it's written and the characters are just so comforting to me. So it's a book that I just pick up all the time if I like don't have something else to read. Sense and Sensibility is like heavy reading, and then Harry Potter is heavy reading because it's in Spanish, and then, you know, Fantasmas is a graphic novel, so I'm not just gonna like carry it around with me. So I think that's all the books that I've been reading, which is kind of a lot, 4 at a time, but they're all like very different, and also 2 of them I've read before, Harry Potter in a different language, but like that helps because I know where it's going. And one of them is a graphic novel and one's a classic, so like really it's not that difficult to discern them. Oh, I reserved a book at the library and it's in, that's why I'm going to the library, but it's On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which I'm so excited for because I was at Barnes & Noble like a week ago, or maybe the Strand, and I looked up like books similar to A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, like the literary fiction type genre. And this one came up in a couple lists, so I was like, oh, that's interesting. So when I was at Barnes & Noble, I went and I read like the first couple pages of the book, and I really liked the way that it was written, and I know I've like seen good reviews of this book before, so I'm really excited because If We Were Villains is kind of like a literary thriller, and it kind of really got me excited to read more like literary type stuff. So I'm super, super excited to read that. So I have to go pick that up at the library. And yeah, I'll probably start reading that one soon because I'm excited. So I guess that's all for this video. I don't know. I'm gonna go do some homework in the library and then probably go out tonight for Halloween because it's Halloween. That's kind of exciting. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, right? Subscribe to my channel if you want to listen to me talk, although I'm not sure why that would be interesting, but I guess, I don't know, if you want to listen to someone talk that's voice sounds like mine, I don't know. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a later video. Talk to you soon.